All right, hello everyone. My name's Tiffany. I'm the Tipsy Artist, and we are going to be painting this today. So let's talk about the Traceable. So we have a kit that comes with this. We provide all the line art. Let me get in the frame there. Awesome. Okay, so option of 11 by 14 or 8 by 10. I'm using 11 by 14 today. We'll be doing this in studio as well this weekend. So this is the line art that comes with it. If you're doing an 8 by 10, it's actually much easier for placement because the entire image will just exactly fit on the 8 by 10 and you'll just place it on there right in the center. No worries on that. If you're doing it on the 11 by 14, then you'll place your graphite paper down here first. We always tape up here at the top. That way, as we trace, we can lift up and check our work. I worked ahead a little bit, you can see. But I always tape very securely up here at the top, and then placement is, usually I do it in the center on this one because we have the mason jars. I want to make sure that it lines up with the base of the painting. So I go ahead and place it right here at the base so that it will fit perfectly, but I do place it in the center horizontally, and then I take it all the way to the very edge for placement here at the base. So, and hello everybody out there. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm in my sunroom today and it's a lovely cloudy day, but temperatures are awesome. So we're going to have a really fun time painting this. In just a moment, I'm going to switch camera views and take it down to where you can really see me working close and up tight on this so you can get a good look at that. But this is what it looks like when you start. So you can see how we do make it really easy. And everything that you need, all the supplies are at tipsyartist.com, whether you do it online with us or come visit me in the studio. So it's going to be amazing. All right, so here we go. I'm going to go ahead and place this here. I'm going to switch my camera view. Let's click. Let's do this. Look at that. I'm so proud of myself right now. Okay, all right. So kind of scoot that over. And all right, so we've got, let's talk about our supplies here to begin with. We've got our paint here nearby. We've got some plates for like a palette, if you will. And then we've got our water for cleaning our brushes. And I've got my brushes that I'll be using that come with the kit here. So we've got 3 different brushes. I call this one Mama right here. This is my Mama brush. And then I call this my little buddy. And then I call this my little bit. And so that will take care of everything that we need. Let's get that back a little bit. Okay. Actually, I'm going to move this over. I'm going to take my mic and move it a little bit closer too, just to make sure that you can hear me. All right. Let's get all situated. And hello again to everyone. We're so happy you're here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those below. And I always get back with everybody right after the class. All right. So let me go ahead and lift this off. I've worked ahead on my trace. So I can go ahead and remove that now. And I talked about how to place it on there, so we're good there. Also, if you're painting with me a lot, you know that a lot of times I do permanent marker on everything. I did go ahead and leave a lot of this in a soft place. I actually need to have I do not have my visual up on my screen. Hold on. You can't see what I'm doing, but I need to see the painting that I'm looking at. So I'm going to get that situated. Pardon the pause here. Yeah. It's going to happen here pretty quick. All right, I'm waiting for that to load up. But basically, I've left a lot of my drawing just in a pencil stage so that it just remains soft. Some of this I did come back in with permanent marker and I hard lined. And I feel like that's really crucial to do. That's our buffalo check in here. And we worked, I worked really hard. I don't know where we came from, a little mouse in my pocket. But I worked really hard on the line art to make that buffalo check very easy for y'all so that you wouldn't have to work it out. I've worked it out for you. And then this way you can come back in with a permanent marker and it's pretty much just set as it is with just permanent marker in your pencil, and then you'll be all good to go. All right, so we're going to start with our light colors first. Here we go. I'm going to get my white out there. And let's see here. Gosh, there's so many fun choices. What do I want to do first? Let's go ahead and start with a really pretty rose. So I've got a light colored rose today. I'm going to go ahead and take some cadmium yellow. Place a little pea size amount of that right down there. And then I'm going to take my mama brush and, you know what, actually, let's grab a few more things. Let's do some primary yellow too. And then let's grab some Mars Black. A little pea size amount of that. And then I'm going to take a big dollop of the white, a little touch of that primary yellow. I'll start with just that to begin with. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and work this into the base here. And you can see how this is such a light color that my line art is actually just showing right through, which I actually love. That's great for you too as a beginner. That way you don't lose your trace. Again, this is just titanium white and a little touch of my primary yellow. We'll just get a nice thick coat base of that. All right, then we'll come back up here at the top. Again, a little bit of primary yellow and that white. And work that in. All right, lovely. That's a great step. I'm going to go ahead and rinse out. And do a quick little wipe here on my rag nearby. Okay. So let's see here. Next step, I'm going to go ahead and start working on the texture of the rose here. So I want to go ahead and let's create a little bit of some gray. So I did my titanium white and my black. And then let's go ahead and touch into a little bit of that cadmium. Cadmium yellow. Alright, so that will add some warmth to it. That's what we'll use for some of our little shadows that come in here. Do a little twirl here into the paint. And where we see those little lines, then we'll kind of come in around that, kind of wiggle the brush a little bit, and then kind of lift off with a light hand. We'll do like a little comma right here in the center. Lift off with a light hand. Again, kind of wiggle it. And you want to work pretty quickly into this too, because we still have the wet of the paint underneath, so it gets a little bit of a soft blend as you work that in there. So again, a little comma right in the center, lift off with a light hand. That's that little shadow in the middle. And then kind of wiggle the brush, holding it on the side. And it almost feels like you do like a little bit of a parentheses motion there. And we'll take this all the way around. Again, a little bit of that comma right in the center. And then kind of wiggle it. These are those little shadows that come around the petal, or a little bit of a darker color on the edge of the petal. And again, it sort of feels like little half circles. And just kind of let the brush kind of push into it and wiggle it a little bit. It's actually perfect if you have a little bit of a shaky hand. That's your best friend on this. And you're like, finally, shaky hand's my best friend. That's awesome. All right, so I'm going to rinse out a little bit now. And let's go into some white. Just pure titanium white there. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of push that into it as well. Same kind of stroke, a little bit of a wiggle. And still kind of like that little half circle effect, a little bit of a wiggle with it. Just kind of take that all the way around here. A little bit of that soft blend happening. You can actually pick up a little bit of your darker shade that we just mixed in and kind of rework that back in. So you still get a little bit of that soft blend into the white. We'll just repeat on this. I'm kind of laying the brush more on the side too a little bit as I just do a little bit of a drag all the way around. And again, a little bit of that wiggle and those little half circles. And sometimes I do come back in with a darker shadow and just kind of rework it into the white. Now let's come up here and we're going to gather some more white and work this into the bottom rows. So just lots of fun layers, lots of playful layers, and with a little bit of wiggle and a light hand. Looking really good on that. So we've got our roses down now. And if you want, you can have a few little dots. Let's do little tiny touches here, a little bit more of the warmth of the cadmium. I'm going to dip into that with the tip of the brush and just do a few little dots in there. Tiny little touches. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, rinsed out. Let's go into our black and just do a few little tiny touches of that. I typically just do about 1, 2, 3 on that. Oops, that last one wasn't really strong. All right, that looks a little bit better. All right, very, very pretty. Okay, so let's rinse out. Now let's do some really beautiful violet. So here we go. Here's our violet color. And initially this will look very, very dark, very black. All right, so I'm going to immediately push some white into it. and that will brighten it up quite a bit. So this is our titanium white. I'm pushing it into the violet. Making varying stages of lightness here. So I've got really dark, a little bit of a medium shade, and then very light. All right, so we're going to go ahead and kind of push into this little shape nearby here. And just follow it along. And take this all the way around. Now I'm going to grab some more white. I'm going to work into that with more white and a soft blend into that center. Again, using a little bit more of the side of the brush, kind of twirling the brush a little bit. All right, so we have just varying shades of the really light lavender and then little hints of the darker purples in there. Let's go ahead and rinse out. And then here in the center, I'm going to grab a little bit of that cadmium yellow that we started with. And I'm going to do a few little touches of that. Little dots. Rinse out. I'm going to go back into that darkest shade of purple and do a few little spots of that. Tiny little dots. Just kind of push down. I'm going to gather a little bit more of that darker purple. And from the center, I'm just going to kind of do a little pull. With a little bit of a curve to it. Come all the way around. All right, let's rinse out. All right, next we will do our fun little daisies here in the center. I'm going to start with mostly white here and just a little bit of our gray. So we'll be needing our Mars black with that gray. And then I'll also have maybe a hint of some warmth, so if I still need to kind of pull into my cadmium yellow with that black and that white. And that's going to be nice to go into as well. So it's not just a pure gray. All right, let's rinse. And now it's mostly white, and let's just grab a tiny touch of what we mixed up here. And mix that into our white, because this is way too dark, so I just want it to be mostly white with just a tiny touch of that. And then we'll start to work this into our little daisies. We'll have a lot of this to work in. And wherever you see a little bit of a line with that daisy, if you're afraid you're going to lose it, then go back in, pull in a little bit of that darker gray and do a little line around it so that you maintain your shape, and then just come in the center more with your lighter shade of your white that comes into the center there. So you can kind of loop around with that darker gray and then come into the center with the white. So you need a little bit more there. and then the white nearby. This is definitely a time to kind of chill out, relax, just be really patient with the process. We're going to have lots of repetition on this. And lots of alternating back and forth with that gray and the white. And again, this is what I call my little bit brush. So keep those highlights going. Remember to keep switching back and forth between the gray and the white. So that'll create that nice shadow effect. Again, just as a reminder, this gray is our Mars black and our white and a little bit of cadmium yellow too. We add a little bit of warmth with it that way. So I'm doing a little bit of a push initially and then a pull. So in the center, I'm going to start with that darker shade of gray. Pull that out. And then I'm going to come back in with my white. I'm not even really rinsing my brush out because I still kind of like the fact that I've got that gray still in there. And then I'll do a little bit of a push and then a pull back into the center. All right, let's start with the center again, more of that darker gray. Creates our shadow. All right, let's twist that out, go back in with the white, start from the tips here and then pull that right back in. And if you need to rotate your canvas while you do this, you certainly can. I feel like sometimes that makes it a little bit easier on people. Sometimes you can get a better vantage point by turning the canvas a little bit. All right, now we're going to go back to that gray. Twist it out. Let's go back into the pure white. And then start to pull that in. And you'll get a nice soft blend with the gray that you just laid down. All right, it's looking lovely. Twist out that white, go back to our gray. And again, start right here in the center and just pull that out on each petal. And I just do little sections at a time. so that it doesn't dry on me. And I pull back in with the white because I do want a little bit of a soft blend in between those two. So I still want the paint to be wet. So as it comes back and touches again, it will still have a little bit of that blendability since both sections are still wet. All right, twist out the white. Let's go back into our gray. Let's get a little bit more of a mix here. I'm kind of running low. So I picked up some more of my Mars Black, Cadmium Yellow, and let's get more white. Do another section of that. And twist out. And let's start again here. Starting from the center and just do a quick little pull out. All right, let's twist out and go back into the white. See, it just really softly blends beautifully back into the center. All right, gotta get more gray. So twist out of the white, go back into that gray. And let's start with that little bit right in the center there. And just pull that out. Twist that out, go back into the white. And then let's work that back into the center. It's really pretty. Okay, let's twist that out again, go back into the gray. Start from the center. Twist that out, go back into the white, and let's meet back to the middle. Some firm pressure, pull in and then lift off with a light hand. All right, that is looking gorgeous. Now we're going to work on the centers here of these. So we want to pull in our cadmium yellow over here with our primary yellow. Let's go ahead and make sure we have a little bit more paint to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and do just another small dollop of paint here. Let's mix those two together. And we'll have a little bit of shadow with this too, so I'm going to pull into that gray that we have nearby. And we'll do a little bit of a shadow here. Basically, we'll kind of start with that in a circular motion all the way around. Let's rinse out and then work quickly. Come back in with our cadmium yellow and our primary yellow, and let's push into that while it's still wet. Get a nice soft blend between the two. All right, now it's time for a little bit of texture with this. I'm going to pull into that cadmium yellow and the primary yellow, and I'm going to do a little bit of tapping right over the top. So I've got a lot of paint on there, and then just a tap, tap, tap. There's our texture. Now let's pull into that darker shade, do a little outline around here. This is that gray that we had. Now granted, I've got a little bit more of that cadmium yellow in the mix, that's okay. Now I'm going to pull into just the pure cadmium yellow and the primary yellow, and just kind of tap that in over the surface, creating that texture. Tap, tap, tap. All right, let's go in with that darker gray. Get our little circle. Now let's go in with the brighter cadmium and the primary yellow and tap that out right in the center. Really good texture there, love it. All right, let's twist that out a little bit, go back into more of our gray, with just a slight hint of the cadmium yellow, and we'll circle that out. And then let's go back in with our cadmium yellow, primary yellow, and then tap that out over the surface. I grabbed a little bit more primary yellow on that. We're going to do a little tap, tap, tap. Again, lots of texture, lots of paint. It's kind of leaving it right there on the surface area. All right, it's looking really pretty. Let's go ahead and rinse out. Okay, really nice. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and do our hydrangeas over here to the side. And I'm going to turn my plate now. I've got some violet here as a starter. I'm also going to pull in some primary cyan blue. And of course we've got our white nearby as well. And let's go ahead and use our little buddy brush for this. I'm going to grab some white and a little touch of our violet here. And a little touch of that primary cyan blue. So the combination of those together makes a beautiful kind of periwinkle color. I love it. It's one of my favorite colors. And so I'm going to go ahead and start to do just little pushes with this. Little short strokes. And sometimes I'll pull in just some pure white. It's important to keep the variety going with just the pure white and then maybe a little bit of that pure violet and kind of push that in too as you work. So we're doing a lot of alternating between the violet and the white and that primary cyan blue. And so you're just doing tiny little short strokes with a little bit of a curve to it. And again, make sure and alternate between the white and the violet. It's almost like a blending that's happening on the canvas itself. And an alternating stroke between the three colors. So it's going to be the white, and then the primary cyan blue, and the violet. So it's really important to keep up the alternating of colors through this process. And that will build your texture as we go here. And as we get a little bit closer to these petals, I will have to do a little bit of cut in right there. So I'll kind of sweep the brush in more on the side using that little line edge, and then I'm going to work back in that texture by creating those little tiny half circles that we just did. And I feel like pushing back just the pure white into this too is extremely impactful and creates really lovely highlights as you go. Seeing like right now I'm just picking up just straight violet and pushing that in. So that will create a nice little shadow, and then I'll go into the white and just push that down. And you notice I'm not cleaning out my brush. I mean, it's just definitely covered in all three colors. And it's just a very rounded shape. All the way around. And as a matter of fact, hydrangeas have a very circular shape to them, like a big ball. And you can come back over the top and add a few more little white highlights. Again, don't forget that little half circle. A little bit of texture to it. All right, that is looking so pretty. All right, so I feel like we're pretty good there. Let's go ahead and rinse out. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and work in with some lovely, trying to think what I want to work in next. I think we'll do some of the mason jars next. Let's go ahead and work on that before we come in with the greenery, because the greenery will come out in the foreground over the top of that. So let's go ahead and do a light gray using my little buddy brush again. And let's gather some white. Tiny little touch of our Mars black. But this needs to be very, very light, so we're going to grab a lot more white. And again, this is my little buddy. just going to go ahead and paint that light gray into this mason jar. Now we've got some twine ribbon that will be coming out in front here too, so I'll avoid that. I'm going to keep my brush strokes here light, a little more translucent so that I can still see the lettering that's coming out. It'll peek through here. So light hand, and sometimes you might even have to add a little bit of some water to that. Give more of like a watercolor look. Because I'm not sure, it kind of depends on how heavy-handed you are. So sometimes you may have to add a little bit of water to thin that out. So now I can still see the entire mason jar peeking through, all the line work, all the lettering. So we'll be able to come back in and touch that up on the end. So there's our light gray. All right, now we have a bit of a slate color. So I'm going to take, I've got my primary blue that was nearby, and I'm going to work that into that really pretty light gray. I'm going to grab a lot more white. It almost looks like a light dusty blue. So I grabbed a little bit of that primary cyan blue that we had out earlier, and a lot of the white, a lot of white. And of course there was some of that gray we had there too. So I'm going to go ahead and work this into this mason jar. Make sure and get it to where it peeks in behind the stems. And we still have our twine basically that's coming out in front here too, so we'll not paint into that. Or you could do a light wash over the top and just know that you'll be covering that up with a different color later. But I'm just going to be a little bit more careful with my cut in here. Maybe grab a little bit of water so we do not lose our trace. Sweep this across. It's a little bit more of like a translucent, dusty blue. And we'll just work in that twine that comes in over the top later. Turn the brush a little bit more over to the side, parallel to the canvas. That will give me a light coat of paint right over the top. It's very light-handed, so I'm going to do a slight little messy overlapping paint there. All right, so we're good on that. Let's go ahead and rinse out. And now I'm back to having more of a warm golden color here for the center with this mason jar. So I've got my cadmium yellow there, and I've got that gray nearby that I've mixed in with it. It's very warm. So then I will mix this and then put this into this little mason jar shape. And then don't forget about this little part right here in the center. And then we have little peekaboo parts in there. This brush is way too big for that, so I'm going to go ahead and rinse out. We're going to grab another brush. Let's grab our little bit and twirl into that. This is that cadmium yellow with the gray. And so I'm going to just have it peekaboo right in through here. Alright, so we are looking really good. Okay, let's go ahead and do some of our twine that comes in over the top. And it is actually the same color that we're working with. That's why it's a nice transition. So again, our cadmium yellow and our gray. And you know what? We can add a little bit of brown to it if we want, just in case. I'm going to show you how to mix that up. So let's go ahead and do some cadmium orange. So a little touch of that. So Cadmium Orange and Mars Black make brown. So you can add a little bit of that to this as well. So you can have a darker brown twine if you would like. And add a little bit of that color that we just had, which was our gray, our cadmium yellow, and then we've got our cadmium orange, and then black. My daughter's on the phone. It may make it squeal. Hey, London? London? Wait, hold on. Whoops. London?
Hello?
Hi, sweetie. Hey, I'm I'm in the middle. Val, it's not making the I'm on live.
Well, you just continue being online.
Yeah, and I'm almost done, so I'll call you as soon as I get done.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Sorry, Mom.
You're so, hey, no worries. Everybody say hi to my beautiful daughter. This is London.
Hello.
All right, love you, sweetie. I'll call you here in just a few minutes.
I love you too. Sounds good.
All right, love you.
Love you too.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Okay. That's my beautiful daughter, and she is on her way from college dorm, or college apartment. It's not a dorm anymore. It's more like an apartment. Anyway, she's headed home. And so she always calls me, and we talk all the way. So I'll have a nice long chat. It'll be awesome. All right, I'm going to go ahead and work into this little twine here. Let's grab a little bit of water. And work into that cute little shape. Just a cute little ribbon. And let's get that little center part there. Take it all the way around. Yeah, that looks awesome. Okay, and then we'll continue our little string all the way down this way. You know, another little string there. I may not have that on the trace, or I missed a spot. That's one of those cases where you might miss a spot. I'll check my line work and make sure that's in there for y'all. All right, so there's our cute little twine. And then we've got another one over here, so let's go ahead and work that in. Let's grab a little bit more water. It makes the paint very fluid, easier to work into some of these details here. And we'll take that all the way down. That is so lovely. Okay, so now rinse out. We need to make a few darker shadows in here. So I'm going to take my primary cyan blue, with a little bit of that black, and a little bit of white. So it's like a dark, dark slate. I did not show you all that at all. My apologies. Okay, so primary cyan blue, a little bit of black, a little bit of white. This is my little bit brush. Twirl that out, and then let's go ahead. We're going to use this for a little bit of our line work here. Light hand all the way across. Little curve there. And across here. And then we'll also use this, twist it out to a nice fine point, and we'll use this to go over that lettering on the mason jar too. So again, you just have to follow your trace. You have to just make sure the brush is really thin. So as I'm coming in here, maybe add a little bit of water to keep it very thinned out, and twirl the head of the brush into that paint. That'll keep it very, very tiny right up at the top. Alright, there that is. It looks awesome. Alright, and we'll do the same thing here on this side, except it's going to be not as much blue, more of just that charcoal gray. So I'm going to grab a little bit more of the black and the white. Again, same deal where you kind of just twist it out. And there's just a little bit of peekaboo with your lettering coming from behind here. So a very thin, fine point there at the end. That's what you want to work with. And then we'll come in again and do our little highlights here on our mason jar. All right, it's looking so good. All right, quite lovely. Now we have a lot of greenery that we really need to work into this. I have a few more flowers up top, and those are actually like a light white or gray. So I'm going to go ahead and take my little bit brush and just kind of work right into the top. Again, just a little bit of white and that gray. Grabbed a little bit more of that gray to kind of work into that stroke. Makes a nice texture. Ooh, and now we get to do all of our pretty greenery, so that's going to be awesome. Okay, so this is getting to be quite busy, so I'm going to actually pull in some fresh paint here. I'm going to grab my big thing of white. Okay, so now we need some cadmium green, dollop of that, dollop of some Viridian, and also a dollop of the bright yellow green. And, you know, we're going to need some Mars Black too. So Mars Black, because we're going to need those shadows in there. Let's pull this where we can see that. All right, let's go ahead and take our mama brush, and we're going to start to mix up a little bit of white with our cadmium green. And let's make it a little bit darker with the Viridian, add some depth to it. And then sometimes we'll pull in a little bit of shadow, so you can see how that looks too with that black in there. That's going to be really nice. It almost has kind of a sage look to it. And I'll work big over here first. Do a little bit of tapping in around that hydrangea there, and then we'll pull out to this full voluptuous leaf shape. It kind of goes down to a point. You know, there's not much else I can use with Mama. She's just a little too big. Let's go ahead and rinse that out. Just let her sit in the water for a second. Let's go ahead and use our little buddy. That's going to be about the right size. And let's grab a little bit of that black. Kind of create a little bit of a shadow in there. Right down the middle. Take that around. We got a nice soft blend working. Let's push into that black a little bit more too. Let's check our end, make sure it's nice and thin. Our brush can get filled with too much paint. See, now it's nice and thin. That's awesome. And we're going to do some fun little diagonal lines off to the side. Okay, it's very lovely. All right, now we're going to go back light with our cadmium green, our white, and our Viridian. I'll go ahead and pull this out. Feather this out a little bit. And let's do another little section here. Another little fun leaf coming in. Let's grab a little bit of some bright yellow green. Have a little bit of a lighter shade here nearby. Turn that brush a little bit more over to the side, kind of feather that out. We have another pretty little leaf coming over here to the side. And feather that out using the flat side of the brush. All right, we're going to kind of squeegee out that excess with firm pressure. Let's go back into our darker Mars black. Press out for a thin line there. And let's go ahead and do a fun little thin line around the edge. Little diagonals away from the center. All right, that's really pretty. Go into those lighter shades of green now. Make a few little stems in here. Need my smaller a little bit brush for that. Let's go ahead and go into these bigger sections in here. Grab a little bit more of that bright yellow green. Kind of feather that out. And if you see some, transparent areas, then of course just kind of turn that brush a little bit more over to the side. Got a little bit more paint. Allow that to just kind of rest right on the surface. This gives you a gentle hand. Pull that out to a nice fine point there. Just fill that in. Rinse out. I've got a little flower here that I neglected to get earlier. So I've got some gray and my white. I'm going to go ahead and work that into this little flower shape here. I'm going to pull in a little bit of my violet. Quite lovely. And rinse out. Let's pull back into our greens. We've got our cadmium green, bright yellow green, a little bit of Viridian. All three together. Maybe even a touch of that black too. So we'll just kind of get it all. And a little bit of white. And I'm doing like little tiny leaf shapes now. Kind of looks like little tiny parentheses. And I'll just kind of do a little bit of filler. Work back into our existing leaves. And a little bit of shadow here and there. And let's do that center shadow, a little bit of black, give it a little bit of a curve, wiggle it out to the base. Now I'm going to come back in with a lighter shade, come right next to it. Twist that out. A little bit of a rounded center. Come up bright green yellow. Just right next to it, kind of blend into it. Squeegee that out, go back in with the black. A little bit of that black line right through the middle. I'll wiggle it out a little bit. Let's go right in with that lighter green, come right next to it. Alright, so this is looking really beautiful. Now you can actually just keep this white if you want to in the base, which is quite lovely, or you can come back in and do a really pretty black in the background too. So that is up to you. With the black, there's really not a lot of blending on that. Maybe a little bit of white here and there. So I'm going to go ahead and work in a little bit, just almost look like distressed wood here coming in behind it. So I'm going to use my mama brush, and then you can do like just thin lines that come through the middle here. And let's go ahead and rinse out a little bit. Still have a little bit of residual black in there, but I'm going to come in now with just the white. Just vertical strokes. Just like that. And then, of course, you'll have to do a little bit of cut in here. Grabbing a little bit more black to have a little bit more contrast near these white daisies. And then I'll just kind of pull that up. Hold that brush more over to the side. Again, this wall back here, it kind of looks like it's been aged, so you don't want too much perfection here. So doing a little bit of that shadowing, and then I'll pull that straight up. So that paint's been there quite a while. You can grab a little bit more black to kind of create those shadows in there. Let's go ahead and rework that little shadow, and then just pull up more of our straight white and our gray. Again, just a lot of white, a lot of black. I'm going to rework that black line. And if you wanted this to be, of course, a black wall behind it, then of course you would just add a whole lot more black to this. Of course, you could also just do solid black too. If you lose your black line, you can just kind of put it right on the edge of your brush. Just kind of pull it straight up again, re-emphasizing that. And a little bit of water in with this too also kind of gives it a nice little watercolor look, especially as you're doing your cut in. You can almost make it like a nice little translucent wash right over the top. That way it doesn't disrupt what you've already painted. And you have more of a natural look there. Go right back into that black. Do another little thin pull-up line right through there. And just, you can kind of see how that's just looking like an old wall right behind there. just have to continue this throughout here. With that vertical pull. And I want to make sure I've got some symmetry with that black line that will come down right through here. So I'll make sure that got a little bit of a black there and there. Need a thinner brush here, so I'm going to grab my little buddy. Grab more white, just kind of pull right into the sides there. And just pull it straight down. Let's push that up to where you can see that a little bit better. And these little sections you can honestly just kind of cut in more just vertical strokes as much as you can with your light gray. And I try to use as big of a brush as I can in the bigger areas, but then I'm definitely going to have to switch over to my little buddy or even my little bit to get into all these tiny little areas. When I come near the white, I try to use a little bit more of the darker gray just to have that contrast. It's a little bit of a shadow. And again, a little bit more of a shadow in here, so I'll work in with the darker gray around the daisies. Grab my water and that darker charcoal gray. I'm going to finish doing a little bit of shadow in behind. And then I need to touch back into, looks like I missed a little spot here with my dusty blue. Well, sometimes you don't notice it, and then at the very end, boy, it really sticks out. Yeah. All right. And we've got this all to work into as well. Definitely need a little bit to get into that little twine area there. Let's grab some more white. And then go back to that vertical stroke. Lay the brush more on the side. Touched on top of the twine, so I'm going to pick that back up with a little bit of water. still have just a little bit of that darker gray shadow happening right here in the middle of our little daisies. I'm going to soften those edges just a little bit with a tiny bit of water. All right. So we're looking pretty good. I've got a line that could come. I think we're good there. Just making sure I've got all my little areas here. Just kind of working back into some of these flowers right in over the top of that shadow, so they look like they're popping out in front again. Just grabbing a little bit more white. And just doing little light touches right over the top again. All right, that is really pretty. I think we are done with our beautiful mason jars. And if you want, you can continue, absolutely continue working into that background. Keep it light gray or make it more black. It's up to you. Lots of different fun options on that. Ta-da! All right, so we're going to go ahead and call it quits on this. It's been a lot of fun, very peaceful, lovely day. And this is a painting kit that we have on our website, so it's available at tipsyartist.com. And you can find everything that you need there. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Happy to get back with you after the class. But y'all have a beautiful rest of the day, and we will see you soon. Toodles!